And away we go. All right, good morning, everybody. Saturday Sweep Series with Wall Street Jesus here. Once again, a very exciting week this week for Bulls, for Bears. I think it's about time you hang up the cleats and give it a rest. Your time will come. You guys have been plugging away for too long here. It really amazes me. Some of the Bears out there, they definitely aren't playing the short side as much as they tout their bearishness out there because either one, they have unlimited amount of funds, or two, uh, they got to be broke by now. So, but again, we don't want to get too cocky on the bullish end of things. It is what it is. And instead of trying to predict where this market will top out, you ride the wave. Again, try to buy dips, as we've been saying. I mean, this has been, and that's where the buy the dip type of market. I mean, we have been in this for years now. This, I remember that BTFD surfacing all over Twitter, and that's a couple years back now, several years back. So by far has been the best strategy, and we haven't even seen a real correction, in my opinion. You know what I mean? It's not even my opinion; it's a fact. We haven't seen anything that can spook bulls legitimately. I think since 2011. Okay, there's been some stuff here and there, but when they're that quick, they really aren't that scary. You need something, a prolonged little stretch with some volatility, where it looks like things maybe, can get a little sketchy over the next couple months. I think 2011 is the only thing that may resemble that a little bit. Um, and we'll see what happens from here. We're overdue, yes, but at the same time, you want to ride the wave until it stops. All right. So let's talk about, before we get into things, let's talk about the overall market. I'll save questions on our strategy, what I do, how you can learn more about it at the end. Just very quickly, if you go to wallstreetjesus.com, for anybody who's new this weekend, you get the answers to all the questions you may have. There's a strategy section, a tab on the top, a lot of short little blogs that explain, sweepers. You hear that term out of my mouth constantly. What type of options that flow in activity I focus on and stuff like that. So any questions you may have, you'll probably find a general answer here. Okay. And other than that, as far as the products we offer two main things as of right now. We offer a premium package, which basically is everything we got in one, and that's this right here, 50% off the first month throughout the whole Saturday Sweep series. You get access to the room with the alerts, live audio video I'm on throughout the whole day, sharing commentary on, in real time as the action's coming in, and just myself and members talking about, almost again in a play-by-play type version of the order flow as it comes in. And it's been huge. I think the audio video has really taken the room to another level. Again, not just me sharing my feelings, but getting feedback from others. A lot of people sharing ideas, how they may want to play the activity that comes in as far as strategy and so forth. So that's the big boost to the premium. It's the audio video. Not only throughout the day, we do recaps twice a week where I take questions on anything from, specific orders, strategy, you know, what I tend to look for is when day trading, swing trading. So any questions that may be on your mind. So it's really involved, and I think that's the huge plus there. Okay. Aside from that, you also get private Twitter included. That's this here. Okay, and it's basically all the alerts in real time. You get some open interest pre-market, some sentiment stuff, both pre and post market. Okay, so all the alerts, I get that question a lot. The alerts are all in real time. It's just the audio video that obviously is the huge plus to the actual room. Okay, and the reason I bring that up, we also have spun off private Twitter into its own entity, so you can subscribe just for that. And that's more, in my opinion, if you already have a strategy and you're just looking for the flow, all right, the aggressive wise guy activity. If you're trying to get a feel for the flow before you want to commit to the room, and 50% off the first month is not something you want to deal with initially, but you want to try private Twitter out. That's basically what we spun off private Twitter in itself for. Other than that, I think for the full value as far as learning the specific activity and what to do with it strategy-wise, if you can financially, I think the room is where it's at. Okay, again, not just based on sharing my knowledge and you learning through my eyes how I'm looking at the order flow as it comes in, but also sharing with other traders that may trade a specific style like yourself. Let me just talk about this because I think this is the biggest problem amongst new traders. Okay, and even for myself initially, you hear, you see, you read, you hear on Twitter and social media, on the internet, everybody pushes their way, right? Trend traders push their way. Nothing works. Technicals don't work. Fundamentals don't work. It doesn't matter. Only price matters. Everybody pushes their own way. And I think it brainwashes some of the new traders because it couldn't be further from the truth. There's many different styles in this game that find success. Okay? It's the ability to find the style that suits you best. Okay, so I'll give you an example. Order flow or a type of order flow may come in, okay, in relation to what I look at on an ongoing basis. Order flow may come in at a certain period of time throughout the day, and it may apply and it may be actionable to me as a day trader and everybody else who's looking for intraday momentum. But for somebody who's swing trading calls, may not be worth their while. You know what I mean? So that's a big proponent of this game. There's nothing, I think, or very little that can be a blanket statement to each and every trader and investor out there. Okay? And I think if you take one bit of advice from me, if you're new in this game, figure out what you want to do. Okay? What type of player, not even trader, what type of player you want to be. Okay, there's a big difference between a trader and an investor. Completely different. The rules that you read about, like these guys who post Warren Buffett principles and all that crap, that applies to investors, yeah. Okay, and you can find value in that, of course. But if you're a short-term trader, those principles are completely useless. Completely useless. All right, so knowing what type of player you want to be in this game, what you would feel, what you would feel most comfortable as, what, as far as a time aspect, what you have time to put in. I mean, if you want to be a day trader, but you can't be in front of a screen all day long. All right, I mean, it's not feasibly possible. I don't care, what you try to do. So knowing exactly who you are and what will allow you to find success is the most important thing. And I just wanted to get that off my chest because we hear it time and time again in a variety of ways. I get people who come in, again, sign up for a new membership to the room, and, they want stock picks or they want some mechanical approach to where something actionable will apply to everybody out there. Okay, or a checklist of principles will apply to every sort of trader and investor out there. And it couldn't be further from the truth. All right. So, again, I think the most important thing you have to do, okay, even if you're a member now or you're looking to sign up and give this a shot, is before you start pressing buttons and trying to figure out if this is for you, know what type of style and what type of player you want to be in this game. And I think it gets easier once you figure that out. Okay, when you fly around and just basically pressing buttons like some wild cowboy out there, you're destined for failure. It's only a matter of time. So understanding that's the most important. All right. So aside from that rant, that's what we try to focus on in the room. That's what I try to push. Now, it goes in one ear and out the other, I'm sure, to a lot of people. All right, let's be honest. But the people who sign up and are committed and really want to find a way to be successful in this game, as long as they put in the time and show that passion and are committed, it's only a matter of time before they do. But you have to show that commitment. All right, so that's basically what we offer. If you have any questions, you can let me know at any time. Hit me up on Twitter or Lucci or anybody, and feel free to ask. All right, let's get into the market now. And then we'll talk about some of the action and some of your names. This market's been incredible, okay? And I find so many things fascinating. We've been talking about a variety of things that really, I don't know, call me a market geek or whatever, but certain things I really get excited about. One thing, aside from flow, is how sentiment shifts so drastically. We've been talking about that every single weekend, right? As when things are going higher, everybody gets bulled up, and then the first sign of some market weakness, people think traders out there think the music's about to stop and it's the end game. Okay, and in my opinion, I think it's one of the reasons why this market has held up so well. Throughout my career, like when I got into the game, and you heard me say this many a times, I got into the game into the mid to late 90s phase, okay? And from what I remember, and I wasn't really into sentiment as much as I am now, but back then you couldn't find a player to be bearish for the life of you. Like, it really, really took some scary shit, excuse my French, to hit the fan for players to get bared up and try to catch the short side. Okay, that's how I remember it anyway. And I remember, like, you want to talk corrections, there would be pullbacks, especially when the internet names got really hot. There would be names that would pull back 20, 30 bucks in a 1-2 day time period, only to snap back and go to new highs. Okay? And still, it wouldn't get people bearish. Like, think about that for a second. Think about Facebook, like, rattling off 8 straight points to the downside, in a couple days. You'd have people jumping out windows. So I still think, and we may get a correction before that, but I still think before this all ends, I think you're going to get those wild swings. I thought it'd be here by now. We still don't have it. All right? But I think at some point before this ends, and it may be a while, who knows? There's no way to predict it. We still have that yet to come before this all comes crumbling down around us. All right? And that's the inevitable. I'm not, I'm as bullish as it gets. Every bull market ends at some point. All right? It does. We're not going to know the reasons why until they're here, but that's something we have to understand and prepare for. But at the same time, that doesn't mean try to predict and try to take advantage of. Okay, that's two completely different things. But my strongest opinion, I think a lot to do with this market strength is how players get all bared up sentiment-wise. And I'm not talking about just emotion. I'm talking about putting their money where their mouth is. We see spikes in the put the call, retail put buying, and things like that, not even off pullbacks in the market, just off surrounding noise and news out there. And there's a lot to be concerned about, right? North Korea nuclear war, Trump doing this. I think the one benefit to this market, and you know me, I'm no politics is something I have zero interest in. We have a president of this country that's a walking wall of worry. You know how they say bull markets fuel off climbing the wall of worry? We have the president of the United States, I think, is a walking wall of worry. And I can only see that, if you're bullish, I can only see that helping this market as far as keeping these pullbacks short and sweet and stuff like that. All right, so that's one thing I think we need to keep a close eye on throughout the push higher as long as this lasts. I'm getting flash flood alert warnings all over my computers and my phones right now. I hear thunder in the background, so if you lose me, that means I got washed away in some storm over here that I had no idea was coming. Anyway, I think keeping a close eye on sentiment is very important. Even if you're not a member, a simple glance at an equity put to call from time to time, you could find that anywhere, I think would be a huge help. Okay, just again, pulling back, pulling in the reins when the put the call is low and there might be excessive call buying out there, which is not a lot, if you can believe that. And then rather than getting fearful when you see a market look a little bit shaky and the put the call rising, meaning there's a lot of bearishness, a lot of protection being bought out there, looking towards that as an opportunity, or at least looking towards that as a place not to get fearful and start looking for entries. All right, and I think that could be a huge help from this point on, going forward throughout the rest of this rally. Okay, because even, you heard me say this, even if we do head lower, if we get these drastic shifts in sentiment, they will create trading opportunities. In other words, when people get too fearful, you'll get that snapback rally, and a lot of times that snapback rally is, you'll get more, if you're an options player, you'll get more upside and more bang for your buck than a market that just glides higher like we've seen throughout, the course of this rally, right? So in other words, I see that with traders in the room, it gets difficult up here, even though the market's like grinding higher every day. But, these little pullbacks, even in this consolidation, where you get these pullbacks and then snap back over the course of 2 days, if you're a trader, an active trader, they could be great opportunities. All right. So the one thing I'm seeing about this market, and this is something we spoke about, I think last week actually, or maybe the week before, everybody was so concerned about maybe FANG underperforming, okay? But nobody was taking into account if the market and the money out there rotates from just a select group of names to everything else that so-called has been underperforming, right? Small caps, energy, stuff like that. How could that, transportation names, how could that be a negative for the overall market? Doesn't make sense. Again, you get that from social media, the internet, and everything else. They were, throughout the rally, when supposedly FANG was the only thing going higher, remember people talking about how the transportation names were signaling something negative as far as the overall market's concerned? You remember that? You remember them, the Dow theory and all that stuff? If the transportations aren't participating, if the small caps aren't participating, it's signaling not an appetite for risk out there. That's what we were getting as the market has been holding up and strengthening. But meanwhile, now we're starting to see that, right? Have you guys looked at the transportation names? Have you seen actually what's going on in these transportation names? They've been on fire. Anybody involved in any of those transportation names? Guys, hold on 1 second for me. Hold on. I'm on a webinar here. Hello? Oh boy. Hang on 1 second, guys. I'm getting warnings of flash flood and all that, and I got my wife calling me. Just let me make sure nothing's going on here. She knows I'm doing, bear with me 1 second. I apologize. I'm on a thing here. Something important? Yeah, it's hailing. I'm doing the Saturday Sweep Series. Okay, pull over, let the weather calm down, and then you could continue driving again. Pull over and relax. All right, be careful. Yeah, just very quickly. I got alerts on my phone, severe weather, flash flood, blah, blah, blah. And there's literally icicles knocking off my glass here. So that was my wife. She's driving. She can't see ice hitting off her windshield. So I apologize for that. So yeah, UNP. So John's mentioning he knows the Union Pacific has been a hot name. Okay, look at this, and we've seen flow in these names. Just let me rattle off a couple, okay? JB Hunt. You guys familiar with that? As a matter of fact, JB Hunt just caught probably the biggest bet I've seen in the name period just last week. They opened the largest position of open interest again in JB Hunt just last week. I mean, look at the strength in this thing. All right? Again, not to sound like a broken record, but you can see how when you pay attention to the noise out there, how it can only cost you money. You can see that, right? All right, here's another one that's been on fire. XPO has had some nice flow. Okay? UPS catches sweeper activity every day, it seems. Catches a buyer every single day. So now where are all those bears that were pushing the transportations being a leading indicator? You know what I mean? As far as this market, not looking too hot, where are they now? I mean, are they coming from crossing the dark side over to our side now and admitting that there's some real strength underneath the hood in this market? And I think that's what has impressed me most about the flow. Okay, what has impressed me most about the flow is that it's not just coming in those FANG names. Okay, there was a period of time where we would only see sweepers in the Baba, the Facebook, the Netflix, that stuff. And I think now the quality is coming in the other stuff. And here's another issue, in my opinion, okay? There are a lot of traders out there that if FANG did underperform, okay, and that doesn't mean they're going to crash, okay? We don't have to be dramatic here. What I'm saying is if the FANG high beta names underperform, that means the juice is going to be elsewhere. And I think the average retail trader out there, they don't even know these names exist. And you know how I know that? It's simple. I'll post an excitable tweet on a name, okay, that the average trader hasn't heard about, and nobody will pay any attention to it. It's the best action of the day, and nobody even acknowledge it. But I'll post just a simple repeat sweeper in Facebook, and they're retweeting it left and right. I see in my own in the Steamroom, okay. I'm on live audio video, and in an excitable way, screaming about certain activity in under the radar names, and traders can't get themselves to buy it. They rather buy that repeat sweeper in, Tesla or something like that. And, we had a whole discussion all last week about this. It's okay if you want to trade just those names. But, you got to understand, the edge in flow, in my eyes, the edge in wise guy activity is to bring your attention to names that are getting hot, right? That's where the hot money's going. So for me, unless Facebook is pulling back and there's some sweeper activity there for a bounce trade, there's no edge in Facebook when it's caught 185 sweepers. Yeah, you can play off a sweeper, you can make money off it, but it's not the same edge as finding a name. I'll give you an example, okay? There was some unusual sweeper activity in this name. True. I don't know what the hell they do. My members were telling me cars on the internet or something. So late last week, I think Wednesday, Thursday, there was unusual activity in a name like this. And, besides a handful of traders, nobody even acknowledged it. Nobody had any interest in it. And you look on the bottom of the screen, up 5% on Friday alone, up 75 cents. There's been a ton of that, I'll give you a couple other names, software names that we've been seeing. We saw some action in this name. I don't know if you guys know it, Box. You guys ever hear of this name? Application software technology. And you can see, again, not your blue chip name and not the ideal name to, really size up as far as on the call side because of liquidity. But if you trade equities, all these names trade. They trade millions of shares a day. It's not like they're illiquid. But this is where the edge has been in the market. Don't get me wrong. There's bigger names as well. There's a ton of bigger names. But there's a ton of action that traders are ignoring in names like this. Okay, we talked about over the last couple of weeks the auto supply names. That's one group I wish I could rewind, obviously, because the amount of flow that came into that group was ridiculous. And, the retail trader out there had no interest. You remember this MNRO, Monroe? You probably heard me mention on here, on Twitter. They nailed the lows in this name. They nailed the exact lows in this name. They came after it a couple times. It just caught another bet into weakness on Friday, up here. Okay, down here, when the stock was under 40, they were buying the Jan 55s. We were like, what's this guy, drunk? This is what it looked like prior. It just broke 55 on Friday, 56. Think about that for a second. KMX, now you needed earnings there to really get paid, but KMX, we've been talking about, these guys loading up those October calls hand over fist. Hand over fist the last couple of months. Finally got loose. And then some. So that's what's got me excited about this market more than some other rallies we have seen. And, this helps out a lot, right? IWM, which has been basically in consolidation since the election, finally got loose over this past month. And interestingly enough, in the worst month seasonally for the market, right? September, October, those are deadly. And that's when IWM finally saw the rotation it needed to bust out to the upside. So going forward, there will be opportunities. There always will be trading opportunities in the big names. Always, okay? In my eyes, the opportunity is when you get some weakness consolidation and you see the flow start to heat up, there's a trade there. But if you want to try to nail some big winners out of this game, there are two things you got to focus on right now. One, you got to pay attention to where the quality of flow, the most aggressive buying goes into. And two, if you're playing options, you got to give yourself enough time to allow that winner to marinate. You know, you always hear me talk about, don't try to catch the big winner in weeklies. If you get lucky, you get lucky. That's great. But if you're looking for a big winner, if you're planning to catch a big winner, you know, I'm not talking 10,000%, but I'm talking about a decent-sized winner on a position. Make sure if you're playing options, you have enough time to allow that to happen and not stress out over it. Okay, and that's what the MNRO, again, just taking an example. All right, if you played the initial activity where they nailed the lows when nobody wanted it, and you went out to Jan like you were supposed to, you got a monster on your hands. And you'll see it in big names. I mean, we spoke about, like, the banks, right? We were talking about the flow. Remember Bank of America, they tattooed the December 25s. Remember the missiles that came into Wells Fargo? All right? Multiple April missiles, April calls, into the teeth of this sell-off as Kramer was bashing it on CNBC as a no-touch. The stock hasn't seen a down day since and looks incredible and still catching flow. All right, so that's the difference. That's the difference in the types of flow that we talk about, you know, each and every week. There are trades, and there are some things selectively that you want to buy based off superb activity with enough time behind it that allows you to catch a nice winner. Here's one that really I couldn't get off my mind as far as the activity is concerned all day yesterday into this morning. Because here's the pickle, okay? Again, if you follow me on Twitter or you're in the room, you know all about this SGMS, right? And the action that it's seen. There was initial activity when this stock was in the teens, and it saw sharp in-the-money sweepers with leaps combined, aggressive activity, okay? It has been a monster. All right, so from the teens, hit a high of 46 on Friday. You know what they did Friday? They came in and tattooed it the same way, the same style they did off the initial activity 35 points ago. And I'll show you what I'm talking about here. Oh, man, I hope I don't lose signal with you guys, because I got... Are we supposed to get hit with a hurricane? Jeez, what's going on out there? Hail? Let me see here, hold on. If I lose you guys, I don't know how I can hop back on, but let me show you this action in SGMS. Hold on. Now, this... right here, you see this? This, like I put it in a frame and hang it up in my office. This is the epitome of sharp activity. And when you hear me say sharp, this is the definition of sharp right here. So what this guy did, and the reason sharp, meaning there's a big boy in here who's making a bet on the name, right? It's not spec flow. They're not trying to catch news per se. There's a big boy involved. A lot of times we'll get, you know, action like this, and a week later you hear Elliott Management, it got involved, or something like, we hear that a lot. Jana, shit like that, all right? So here's what happened. They sweep November 40 calls, 40s, when the stock was 45.65. So you see that now? That right there told me that they already most likely have a position in this name. They already loaded the boat on the equity. They're just looking to utilize some leverage. It's almost like the cherry on top type thing. So this guy comes in, sweeps 840 of the November 40 calls, lays some decent wood, 600 grand on that sweep. Hey, you look at it, 800. People are scanning for 5,000 contract blocks minimum, 10,000. You don't see this. And this, I think, is a better looking order than a 10,000 contract block that would go off. So not only do they sweep this in itself is noteworthy. And they come in and they hit the leaps again. Jan 2019, $65 calls. So they dump in over another million plus into 2019 upside calls. The 65s. I think when they first caught the initial activity, I think it was around 18. I think it was 18, around 18 bucks, and I think it was like the 25s. Something to that effect at the time. Here they're coming in at 45 and change, going out to 2019, hitting the 65. So this action is the goods, okay? Here's the problem. Look at this stock. This is not Monroe at new lows, Wells Fargo as it's bleeding, or a name that's been consolidating forever, right? This is as hot as it gets. The stock hasn't stopped. So this is the tricky part. You rarely see them come in up here like that. So I don't have a big enough track record to tell you guys honestly what has happened when I've seen action like that come into a name that's been this hot. But of that action, worth a shot in my opinion, no matter what. No matter what. And I think if you're looking longer term, or you're looking to trade around this name, this is a name that has to remain on your screen for the foreseeable future. Like it has. Like it already has. And it's in that gaming group that's been hot. You guys remember the action we caught in this IGT, which has been nice. So IGT, you had, bottom, decent consolidation. They come in at the tail end, and this is the beauty of flow, okay? You see, like, this thing is going lower. Finally bottoms here, a little bump, consolidation. They come in aggressively right at the tail end of this consolidation. Now, it doesn't always happen that quick, but a lot of times that's where the momentum will start up, shorter term. They come in aggressively. They spend literally, I think, 10 straight days buying this thing, and then you get that. So that was the other name in the group that has been seeing action, and we have seen smaller activity, repeat activity in this SGMS, same thing. As that IGT caught action, they played this with it. So you had a nice little consolidation here when they started buying it again. But now the sharpest of action comes in up here. So, that's if you're new here, or even if you're not new here, that's the edge that the flow provides. That's the real edge as a swing trader, as a position trader, to get your eyeballs on a name like this. Okay? And like I said, the Facebook, There was a nice trade out of it. They actually were buying, what was it, Friday, Thursday, they were throughout the day, again, and it's not one order. One order can mean anything. I think that's, people get wrapped up in flow and end up not finding success when they see one Facebook buyer and they say, oh, that's got to work out. You know, it's not about that. It's about that commitment. So what we saw Thursday, which was interesting, okay, not initial activity, but again, seemed interesting because on Thursday, throughout the course of the day, there wasn't one big block in Facebook. There was small, under-the-radar sweepers that kept coming and accumulating weeklies, and the stock really wasn't doing anything. It actually had a nice move when they started buying it and went from like up 30 cents to up $1.25, and then just was stuck at like plus 50 cents, plus 65 cents the rest of the day. And they continued to buy it. So, you know, that's what I mean with like Facebook. You know, that right there could tell you, okay, somebody's looking for a quick move on that thing. If you were looking at Facebook for a trade, maybe it's worth a shot. Okay, you can't put it in the same league as the other flow I just mentioned. That would be ridiculous. But if you're an active trader, maybe it's worth a shot, considering they continuously were buying throughout the day. Somebody felt good about a quick move in it. Okay, and then we got the move yesterday with the rest of the market, and Facebook caught additional flow. The problem comes in for traders trading off flow. They don't buy here and looking to flip it into that move. They wait, and then they see the additional flow on a day like that, and they're chasing up here now. You understand? Thinking, oh, Facebook's catching all this flow, it has to go higher. But in reality, Facebook has caught flow forever now. Forever. Facebook actually caught a good-looking buyer. I think it was on the morning of this day, if I'm not mistaken. I think so. And he got run over. They were in Jans. There was a good-looking Jan sweep in Facebook on this day, and after he bought it, an hour later, everything rolled over. The whole market. All these names. But they were Jans. So that's what I mean. Facebook's been catching action all throughout here. All right, the point of this story is that I'm trying to stress to you guys where the real edge of the stuff we look at is, you know, and it's hard, you know, unless obviously you're in the room and paying attention, it's hard to get that point across via Twitter or even on these, you know, weekly webinars, unless you see enough of them. You need to see enough of them to understand. You know, like NVIDIA, let's say. You know, and I know a lot of you guys are going to ask me about NVIDIA. I mean, besides having this pullback and then looking for sweepers down here for a quick trade, there's no edge, in my opinion, in NVIDIA, because this thing has been catching flow forever and has been a rocket. The whole world is bullish NVIDIA. Just because there's flow there, for me, there's no huge edge. And like I said, not to sound repetitive, but if you get a pullback, let's say like this day, for example, the stock's down 3, okay, and then late in the day you see a couple of NVIDIA sweepers. Yeah, that's probably worth a trade if you were looking to trade NVIDIA, but it doesn't mean NVIDIA is going to run from 170 to 200 off that action. Does that make sense? You guys understand what I'm trying to clear up? And, you know, we're seeing a lot of that action. Like, I give you an example now. The banks, okay? I mean, you guys remember telling you about JP Morgan, caught one of the sharpest sweeps I've seen. I think it was for March of next year. Bank of America, remember, caught those December 25s. The guy bought over 100,000 of them here. So now what we've been seeing this past week. Oh, this is not. Is this Bank of America? Hold on. What the hell was that all about? There we go. That looked funny. So Bank of America caught those Decembers, on this move, and now continues to see action. All right, but again, my opinion, the action that came in off this pullback consolidation, that initial startup of the action, you can't weigh the action up here the same way. May it be worth a trade, yeah, but it's not the same quality. And the reason being is that initial activity where they were super aggressive, that told us that there was a higher probability of a change in trend, momentum coming in. So now the action here was a signaling continuation. There's no change in trend there. And I'm sure most of the action, they're probably rolling up and rolling out a lot of the stuff they bought down here. They do it all the time. So what we've been seeing in banks that caught our eye this past week, Morgan Stanley, one in particular, and the reason I like this name, where we see when the banks get hot, Bank of America, they tattoo. You'll never see flow like when the banks are hot, like you see in Bank of America. That's the stud of all studs. Ton of action, okay? Citigroup, JP Morgan, okay? Those are the names that catch action. Time to time, a Goldman. This go around, two names popped up that saw really aggressive activity. The Wells Fargo, right? I told you, they nailed the exact low. And Morgan Stanley, which is not a name that catches a lot of sweeper activity. And it's caught some decent looking sweepers. So had a nice bump here. So what they've been doing this past week, they went out and they were speculating on some real cheap stuff. Some out of the money weeklies in Morgan Stanley. I'm talking about really, really cheap. Nickel cheap. So I don't know what the intentions are. Maybe they think these banks get crazy next week. There's no earnings on the banks next week. So I don't really, it's better that we don't know the catalyst per se. So again, it may be worth a trade. It's not initial activity. It's not SGMS activity. But if you were looking at the banks and looking for a trade, Morgan Stanley might be worth a shot off the spec action that it caught last week. And again, had quality, a decent amount of sweeps throughout this push higher. All right, so Morgan Stanley and actually JP Morgan was the other one. So these two. I don't know why these two. You guys probably know better than I do. But those are the two banks to keep an eye on into next week. Yeah, Gary, these are all recorded if you have to go. All right, so what else did we see? Let me get to some other action Friday. Oh, you know what? I think I have, I have the JPM flow. Hold on. I could show you guys. Wow, this is really, I don't know if it's a weather thing, but starting to lag up here. I hope I don't get bumped off. Oh, here's another beauty, a transportation name. TRN, again, not a name everybody knows, right? Has seen a good amount of action for a while now. And Thursday, they scoop up 15,000 April 32 calls. Okay. Friday, they add 5,500 to that 15, same line. And then, for good measure, somebody sweeps some October 32 calls. And this is another tranny name that has, look at this move. And this is a slow mover. This has been slow. Finally got loose. And then I think it caught news after hours, people were telling me. it caught some news after the bell Friday. So that was some really impressive action as well in that name. Let me get you the JP Morgan. You can see what I'm talking about. Come on. Micron. What about that one too? I'm sure we'll talk about the Micron. Incredible. Where's the SGMS? Come on. Oh, here it is. Yeah, you see how laggy I am? There we go. Here's the JPM action. So 2 lines they were scooping up. See how cheap they are? 7 cents. October 104s. So you're talking about peanuts money-wise. Let's get that out there, okay? Small amount of money. But they are sweepers. All right, so JPM and MS, keep an eye on those two next week. That's the moral of the story there. Micron this past week, I'm speechless. I don't even know what to say about Micron anymore. I really don't. We've been talking about Micron the whole summer, right? And how much action it has caught throughout months now. The action it caught post earnings this week, speechless, jaw-dropping type action. This was Friday's order flow. I mean, look at the sizes, right? 17,000 plus October 41, 17,000 42s, 15,000, 14,000. It's just incredible action. And we all know what Micron did. Micron actually, when you see that type of heat coming in, for me as a day trader, I want to at least get in the middle of it for a scalp no matter what, because you know it's pushing higher off that buying coming in. It's just a matter of how much you're going to get out of it. You know it's going to have an effect on the stock. They're not going to come in sweeping the living daylights out of it like that and the stock not do anything. So for if you're a day trader, scalper, you want to get in the middle of that no matter what. And here's a good example to use off any names that are catching repeat activity. We spoke about Micron, and you remember me telling you I kept getting questions, honestly, probably from this high all through this consolidation with a little lift in it. But there were 2 ways to play Micron. Because of all the action that has come into Micron throughout this whole move higher, okay? The whole move higher, there's been nonstop buying, and it continued. The only trade left for Micron was simple. You could complicate it if you like, but it was simple. You look to buy the pullbacks when the action is there for a trade, right? We spoke about that. If you want something more than that, you look to buy the pullbacks if the action's there, and make sure you have time. Now you see why that strategy works. Now, it's not going to work all the time unless the stock pushes higher, but you can see why that strategy works. Because if you bought the action of this pullback, right, and you were looking for more than a trade, maybe this wasn't enough for you to take off the table, right? If you were looking for more. So you got caught in this, and more action came in. But if you had enough time, if you went out to next year, if you bought here, yeah, you were underwater for a month, but look at where she is now. That's where time is an ally of yours when playing on call side. Okay? Where you get hurt is when there's repeat activity, constant activity, and you're tailing the action and looking for a big move when a name is in consolidation. So if you bought, monthlies and this move wasn't enough, you got fried. And a lot of people did. All I heard constantly was Micron is the biggest premium drain on the face of the earth. We were saying in the room we should have known better. Down here, that's where it got to a frenzy. People bashing the Micron flow. Everybody was talking about it. Oh, those Micron call buys. But, again, if you don't catch the start of that action, you got to think logically here. You're not coming in early, right? So the name's in consolidation here, has never stopped catching action. It's not like the action slowed down ever. It was constant. But if you did the right thing, you went out and paid for some time, even if you had to size down, you're getting paid right now. So that applies to anything that catches constant activity and is not initial activity. All right, let me get to some questions, and we'll probably end up talking about a lot of names with actions anyway. What do we got? I'm a member. How can you tell if it's the same investor making the trade? There was one alert where you said it was the same lotto player buying JPM calls. Oh, there's no way of knowing for sure, Mark. There's no way of knowing. There's no way of knowing anything. It's, again, a best guess. In reality, we don't know the true intention of any of this shit. But all I know based off my experience, when somebody or something is getting aggressive in a name, okay, one order can mean God knows what. Hedging a short, protecting. But when you see multiple orders coming at a name, the intention usually is there's one reason. Whether he's hedging a short or looking to get long or whatever the case may be, he's concerned about an upside move, right? If he's short, he's concerned about an upside move. That's almost, if not worse, just as good as if he was long looking for upside. So it's all a matter of how aggressive the activity is. And again, the most important part as a swing trader, as a day trader, like I mentioned, you could get in the middle of any aggressive activity and try to squeeze and scalp out something out of that momentum. No matter what. Like I said, Micron has caught a ton of activity, and still to this day, when they really come after it, and you mentioned you're a member, Mark, so when you see me posting multiple Micron sweepers in a row, and you've probably seen it, you're going to see upside and you're going to see momentum come in the name. It's just a matter of how much and how strong that momentum ends up being, right? No matter what, when that action comes in, it's gonna, you're gonna see the volume elevate and you're gonna see some movement there. George, SPIN is a new way they label some negotiated blocks. So the order was negotiated. I forgot what it stands for. I could get you the definition, the exact definition. But in simple English, it's a negotiated price. Brent's asking about NRG. Yeah, and NRG for me already did what I felt it was going to do. Now it's a matter of, is there a catalyst, or do these bets cash? You understand? You hear me talk about constantly, you can make money off aggressive activity without even worrying about the bet being right. You don't have to worry about that player being right. You can make money off aggressive activity just looking to take advantage of the momentum. All right, so NRG, here's the story in NRG. You probably heard me say it, but I'll repeat it for nobody who knows. Ton of sweeper activity back here. Ton. Throughout the consolidation. It caught news. Again, I keep getting confused. I think it was Elliott, right? Elliott got involved. That was the news. Really sharp action. Elliott, we see that a lot, okay? Has a big move, finally tops out. Then what we started seeing, just blocks going off, a lot of them tied to stock. So there was stock replacement, blocks, no sweeper activity, just big size, okay? That doesn't excite me, especially a name that already has moved and has caught action. It's not initial activity. So what changed literally right here? Sweepers started coming in aggressively, okay? So my interpretation of that was, all right, the sweepers went quiet. All there was block trading, God knows what, stock replacement nonsense, nothing I can benefit off of. Sweepers pop up out of nowhere right here told me there was a high probability of some momentum or some catalyst in play, right? Somebody aggressively wanted to get in this thing right here for some reason. I don't care why. Even better if I don't know why or have any idea of what potential catalyst. I don't even want at times I know the catalyst, that's when I shy away. I don't even want to know the catalyst. Okay? So that was my reasoning. If you remember, a lot of people in the room got long NRG. Day traders were looking to day trade it on any weakness, looking for sweeper activity, tack on, that type of stuff. And then this past week, you had a little lift there. It went quiet. And then this past week, sweepers started popping up again. And you got a nice move. You know, from what, 23 and light change to almost 26 Friday. So, you know, this is what I was looking for. From this point, I was looking for this price action. Now it's a matter of, do you get that catalyst? Do you get that chatter, news? Or does it push higher or more buying? You know what I mean? So I wouldn't chase up here to buy it. You know, that was the play. So if you're a short-term trader, you got this move. If you're looking for more, you know, here, again, if you're in the equity, you want to raise stops, depending on what type of player you are. So that's the NRG play there. You know, you're in December 25 calls at $2, Bryn, you're saying, yeah, so again, here's why I can't get too junked up on the NRG for, you know, something big happening. Something big happened already. You understand? Something big happened already. We got the news. We got the catalyst. That was back here. This is repeat activity. But again, you could this here was a trade already. You know, if you're looking for more than that from here, now you need a little help. That's all. What else we got? Oh, I answered that, I think, yeah. The MU was crazy. I didn't want to chase. Yeah, well, I don't blame you, Brent. Again, MU getting in the middle of the heat is one thing. You know, looking to get long up here and try to catch a big move, that's a whole other can of worms, you know? Young is asking about Microsoft. Yeah, there's been an uptick in Microsoft of recent. Nice action. A couple people in the room were long right off this pullback. The last couple of days to end the week, Microsoft had some nice action. Yeah, nothing jaw-dropping, but some nice action. There was one name that caught a real nice sweep with Adobe, I think it was. Yeah, this and was had a big day Friday. Yeah, so you got this pullback. All of a sudden, somebody comes in, sweeps $500,000 sweep. There was some smaller action around it. Yeah, that's that changing trend there. But it was a really, really nice looking order. Let me see. God, why am I so laggy? It's got to be a weather thing here. Hold on. Let me move all this shit out of the way. And while I'm trying to get on this, it's the natural thing for traders to get in when a stock has already moved and when you know about the catalyst, right? I mean, that's just a natural emotion traders have. But in my opinion, it's the total opposite. Like, look at this. I don't have another Adobe order that hit the board. That's the only one. That was a good-looking sweep right there. So on 9/26, he sweeps October 146 calls, $454,000 sweep. Like I said, some small sweepers around it. That was right here exactly. And it has had a nice move on Friday. What else we got here? Do I trade IPOs? No, I don't trade any IPOs unless they start trading options. Once they do and they catch sweeper activity, then yeah, I'll trade them. But if there aren't any sweepers, I have zero interest. What am I going to do? I'm going to handicap them on my own? What are you, nuts? AAOI, again, same thing there. Has had action, but it's higher levels now off initial activity. I think we spoke about this before. In other words, there was activity somewhere over here, a decent looking sweep. You got this move, and it's been some small action, nothing major, coming in again. Actually saw weeklies that expired, so nothing major at all. But, the initial activity, already a nice move off that. You really want to see a good-looking sweep here. In my opinion, if you're going based off flow, you want to see a really good-looking sweep here to get long off flow. Not spec action. You want to see a good-looking one. You want to see something like that Adobe caught. Brent saying, Jesus, I got those IWM November 150s. Yeah, IWM has been an absolute beast. Beast. Young is talking Amazon. Opening calls for November 3rd. Yeah, Amazon had action even, I think it was prior. I don't know if you're referring to that. But Amazon had some action. The latest round of action, I'll tell you, Amazon was underwater for a bit, and then I think now has been higher. The last round. Come on. This one here. Let me get the... So, 929. Oh, he's expired, right? 941. 941 he came in. So those are expired. Yeah, Amazon had smaller sweepers that laid some decent wood. That's what you're talking about? There were a couple. You had Tesla, saw some action going into next week. How do I get rid of this now? God, what did I do? Oh. But Amazon, same thing here. You don't want to really chase here. There's a couple names. I'll give you one in particular, like an Intel, that really has seen a nice uptick in activity. Not a lot of people talking about it, and this stock has been grinding higher. And you look, talk about consolidation. This thing has been in one big chop zone forever, and going for a big break. Ideally now, you want to see a shake and bake here of some sort of breather, some sort of pullback to give you an opportunity at an entry. Because now you're chasing now. Now you're chasing. You may get away with it, but the fact of the matter is you're chasing. But Intel, some interesting activity there, and a name we don't speak about a lot, you know? There's been some hot biotech names. My God. You see that? That was one. ABEO. You guys remember we spoke about this a couple times. They came in and played December 22s on Friday. Something ridiculous. But this thing is long gone. Look at this. This was a $7 stock when they hit it. It hit 18 and change Friday. You know, so these things, a lot of these things are, in my eyes, it's spilled milk now, you know? Again, they may offer quick trades, but you may say it. A lot of you guys are looking for bigger moves. You're not looking for that quick trade. You're not content with that quick trade. And I think there off flow, you have to focus on initial activity or names coming out of consolidation. You know, especially with like the high betas. You know, look at Netflix, okay? What a perfect example that was. Netflix caught action here. You guys remember? Right? Out of this, nobody wanted it. Nobody wanted it. Sentiment completely washed out. Look at this. Completely. So Netflix started catching some sweeper activity. That was your entry. Then more sweepers. Then more sweepers. Then more sweepers. Now, where does all the retail crowd want to play Netflix? They didn't buy it here. They were scared shitless to buy it there. They all want to come in up here. Oh, man, you see that Netflix action yesterday? But meanwhile, there's Netflix action throughout this whole move higher. What happens? They get a little taste. Oh, it's going to break out. Break out. Whoop. What happened to their weeklies, monthlies? Washed out. Kaput. And that's the risk you run off, you know, chasing and not looking just for that quick flip. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. If you're buying Netflix up here, okay, and you're saying, all right, there's some sweeper activity, I think the momentum could carry in the next couple days, that sort of thing. So I'm looking for a quick trade. You know, you're looking for this and you're getting out type thing, right? Anything beyond that, the risk reward up here of sweeper activity is awful, awful. And I think you run the risk of a lot of these names, especially FANG in the high beta world, coming in when they already have moved some. But you know what happens? The retail crowd is so concentrated in just these names. That's all they trade. That's all they want to trade. That they force trades when they're not there. That's what happens. There's so many names out there. But again, if you're a believer in flow like I am, you know, it shouldn't matter too much of what you think. You understand? If there's aggressive activity there and you're trading off flow, you have to find a way to own that stuff. You have to find a way to trade that stuff. You know, when you if you're looking at biotechs and, you know, fold catches action like that, you have to find a way to trade fold. Not find some other biotech that already is running and seems more exciting at the time. You know, if IGT is catching that action, if you're trading off flow, you got to find a way to own IGT. And, you know, again, that's why I think a lot of traders who don't find success or end up finding consistency trading off flow, they're blaming flow, but it's the names they're cherry picking. And you always get the same response. It's always, Every time I hear somebody lost money in the room, I know the names before they even start. I know the names they lost money in. Very rarely are they, do I get they lost names off, the aggressive activity, initial activity. And granted, we're in a bull market. That's one of the reasons why. This market is a huge help. A huge help. Yeah, George. George is asking, can you invest off leap flow? Are you kidding me? That's the best stuff, I think, in my opinion. The best. The best. That's what I'm saying. If you're an equities player, okay, if you're a position player, George, let's say, in equities, like, for example, when I was a broker, George, that's what I would do. I couldn't be nimble, so I had to be selective enough and concentrate on only the sharpest action that had time behind it. So it allowed me to build a position. I wasn't looking to flip it off that quick move because I can't move client money like that. You know what I mean? That's the best action, George. The best. But you just got to understand, they're leaps. Sometimes they go the next month. Sometimes it takes 6 months. I'll give you an example. DHI. I don't know if you remember us talking about the leaps there. That's perfect example. That's Bill Miller, by the way, 100%. 100% Bill Miller buying the leaps. So you look, not even leap stuff, but you're probably asking that because you're seeing some decent leap action, and we're seeing a lot of it, right, George? You're seeing some decent leap action, and you're probably wondering, because they're so far out, is it worth looking at? Of course it is, if that's your style. Now, if you're, if you're an active trader, you're looking for the quick move inside a week, obviously not. You know what I mean? But if you're a position trader, I think that's the best action. The best action. And you know what else, George? A lot of times, like sometimes you'll get a quick move. I used to get pissed off when they moved too quick when I was trading like that because it didn't allow me to build a position. Because what I would do is wait for pullbacks. I'd put on some that day, I'd wait, maybe consolidate a little bit, I'd add. There was a day the market's down, I would look to add. That sort of thing. But some of the biggest winners, man, you won't even believe it. Half the people ignore the leap action out there. Some of the biggest winners I've ever seen come from leap flow. And I'll tell you, a lot of times when they're sweeping leaps, they're sweeping other shit around it. We see it time and time again. And the leaps is just like something they've tucked away in their back pocket. Just like the SGMS, right? We're seeing November, and they tucked away some leaps. We saw it recently in this, URI. Look at this animal. There was a really good-looking leap sweep and some smaller sweeps around it. Here's another candidate, George. PXD. The leap action 2019 activity in this thing has been ridiculous. Ridiculous. So if you're a leap player, if you're a position trader that's not looking for the move inside the next couple of days, weeks, and you're focused on, 2 quarters out, let's say, this action, you look for PXD, you buy some, it pushes higher on you. Now you're hoping for a pullback, some consolidation. Otherwise, if it goes, it goes. You're going to make money. You're just not going to have enough of it. George is saying, tried weekly out of the money sweepers. A lot of them didn't work. Oh my God, George. That, if you talk to me before you try that, You could have saved money. Weekly out of the money sweepers. Those are lottos. You realize that, right? They're not supposed to work. And what do you mean by not work? Like, what were you looking to get out of those things? Those are lottos. That's basically, that's crystal ball flow. That's crystal ball trading you were doing there, right? Weekly out of the money. So you're basically not only trying to predict a move higher, but you're predicting the move, the time it's going to do it by. Like you have a crystal ball. The action here's, again, and depending, it's all relative based on the action, okay? No sharp player is fooling around in weeklies. Okay? No real dudes out there are fooling around in weeklies. As far as, I shouldn't say fooling around, they're fooling around in weeklies if they're playing weeklies. No real dude is making a real bet in weeklies. Speculation. You know? And sometimes you get chatter, sometimes you get a move the next day, sometimes you get a move, a lot of times you get a move instantly based off the momentum on it, and you're going to lock that in. You're not hitting home runs in weeklies consistently. Come on now. That's not happening. And if you have been doing that, you're getting lucky and you're going to get whacked. It's only a matter of time. And listen, and some people enjoy it. That's fine. You know, that's fine. I'm just saying, you know, that's not a, whatchamacallit, a consistent, a legitimate trading strategy. Yeah, unless you got some sort of discipline behind it or game plan behind it that I don't know about. Yeah, I'll give you an example. One quick trade that I really like, all right, George, and it's aggressive and it's quick, that I guess you could probably utilize weeklies, but here's the problem with weeklies, okay? I'll give you an example. And it's a pretty good example, so you can understand. Winnebago, okay? Winnebago caught 2 sweepers one day. You probably remember we were talking about it. It caught a good-looking October sweep, and then caught a real cheap spec sweep in weeklies expiring the next day. Okay? So now, a lot of us in the room, you know, me included, said, you know what? This is a perfect candidate for a play on the equity. Perfect. Why? Because you buy the equity the day before, or I waited the morning of. And if that guy happens to be right or know some sort of chatter that's coming or whatever the case, you get a quick move, you could sell it and lock in some profit. If there's nothing there, right, you stop yourself out, you call it a day, and no harm done. The problem with weeklies, whatever you're putting in, you're going to lose, right? So you gotta understand that. They're destined to go to zero. They're supposed to go to zero. So, you know, if you told me instead of like on a Winnebago, you played weeklies, but you put in basically what you were looking to lose as you were getting stopped out, you know, I'd say okay. But here's the problem with that. We caught, I remember, I think I caught like 70 cents. The stock went up like $1 that next day. And the options, you know, didn't move as much, and then you were caught holding it throughout the day and sapped out a lot of the juice. I mean, that's what makes options so difficult, guys. It's not an easy game. And when you start fooling around in weeklies looking for home runs, you're dead before you start. Saying, what about T-Must? I'm not a big fan. Well, here's the thing. T-Must, there's a lot of action there. There's news all over the place. You know what I mean? What's going to happen to Timas? They're getting bought out? We all know this already, right? Sprint, Timas, there's rumors every day. And it may, but for me, why, as a swing trader, why, I don't want to be involved in that, honestly. Why, it's public news. Everybody knows about it. So basically, you're betting on a buyout that everybody knows about might happen. The market, I'm sure, is trying to factor in what price they're going to get bought at. You're going to look at it as a risk-reward thing. It's too much work for me. I don't have interest in that. I don't want to know the catalyst. Once a rumor starts to circulate, that's when I'm taking profit and raising stops. I don't get more junked up because the rumor's out. So that's my honest opinion. Again, Timas, there's a ton of flow. Sprint, there's a ton of flow there too. But that's been like that for how long now? My God, right? Timas has had flow forever. Forever. What else? I saw another name looked interesting. Where was it? Oh, Gilead. AJ, what do you make of this Gilead? Around 84. That's you're asking the worst person about that stock. But then again, I said the same thing, and it had this move. So I'm the worst person to ask about that. For me, there's better stuff elsewhere. Now, if you're bullish Gilead and you're using the flow as confirmation to your thesis, that's a different thing. You're not solely going off the flow. You're going off what you're looking at and using the flow as an indicator. So, you got to look at it that way in Gilead. Listen, there was some big time Jan buying in Gilead, but that was before this big move. See, after this move, I was giving you guys the example on SGMS because this move is not something I'm a fan of. After they move, I like to look at at the things before they move, before they get in play. That's what made this SGMS, so mind-boggling to me, that it would catch sharp action like that off this move already. Because usually I see things like this, I ignore it. You know what I mean? I ignore it now. The cat's out of the bag. This thing is gone. If anything, you look for this consolidation, like I said, for a trade out of it when the activity starts to heat up. So they threw me for a loop off that action Friday. But a lot of times, and like this Gilead, it's just better elsewhere. I'm trying to think of other names. All the biotechs and the pharmas had, but what was a decent one, but that had a little bit of a move through this Abbott. Caught some action out of the consolidation, pushed higher. That was some decent action. Bristol Myers caught some flow again this past week. But look at this. Bristol Myers had some nice action. I traded it. When was it? Thursday? Wednesday? So it just, again, it's a preference of mine. Not initial activity and the chart looks like this. You're looking for continuation, that type of thing. ZGNX, that's a crazy bio, right? Oh, you know what? I'll give you a crazy bio. Oh my God, that's a crazy bio. What would I do? Up 20 something? Mark, do you know this one? PTCT? You guys know this name? This, again, it's biotech. So take all the biotech flow with a grain of salt. But this is what was interesting about this. And I didn't even realize, it goes to show you how much I follow these biotechs. I didn't realize this happened. I don't know how I didn't realize it, but I did. But make a long story short, there was a risk reversal where somebody sold out of the money puts. I think it was for December, okay? And anytime you see a stock come down with put selling like that, it's always worth keeping an eye on because they usually support it. You know what I mean? Usually you'll see some sort of buying come in. And this thing bounced like a spalding. Again, I didn't even know it came down. But I did see some more December activity in this thing late last week. I bring it up again just because you threw out a biotech that is up 35 or whatever it is up. But yeah, there's PTCT, some interesting action there. I'm sure they have catalysts all over the place. This fold has a catalyst coming too, no? Soon? See, this fold was picture perfect, in my opinion. Picture perfect. Again, it's repetitive, but it was an initial activity. There was a fold, risk reversal, and some sharp order flow in this consolidation. Had an amazing move. And then consolidated again a bit here, and they really, really came after it. So it was worth a trade. You know what I mean? And that's the trade. You know, beyond that now, you know, what are you looking for? FDA approval, all this shit. Now, you know, you're in the hands of the FDA gods. But was worth a trade, and you had a nice move without the risk of any of that. Oh, yeah? Well, you follow on Twitter too, Mark, right? I posted the fold a couple times. But listen, it's one stock. What are you worrying about? There's a lot of flow out there. JD has some interesting action off this pullback. They're looking for a bounce next week, I think. Let me see. It finally stopped hailing out there. What a disaster. Here it is. There we go. That's the flow in JD. That was a roll. Yeah, that was a roll, I think. So this was the line here. You had October 6th, $40 calls. They paid up to 25 cents. 9,200. They're cheap. Again, it's not sharp action, but that's my point. Listen, if we could all just sit around and wait for the sharpest handful of flow, if you told me you can do that, I would say you're going to find a tremendous amount of success. All kidding aside, okay? But we're degenerates. We can't sit around for that. That's the problem. You know what I mean? That's the problem. So you look for trades, and you're not going to have the same win ratio you're going to have. You're not going to have the same success you're going to have off the sharpest action, but you should win more than you lose. And with the proper money management, you should make some money. Okay? And then if you play the sharpest action as well, that's what will paint your P&L. That's my philosophy as far as swing trading off flow. Now, the problem is traders involved a million other things, right? They just don't ignore Netflix going higher. They're buying Google without flow and a menagerie of other things. But that, if you wanted to trade like a so-called wise guy off flow, that would be the ideal scenario. You're playing some of the other stuff shorter term. You're trying to make some money. You're going to lose some money, but more than that, you want to finish in the green. That's your goal. And then the sharp action, that's what's going to paint your P&L. And, this qualifies as, the quick trade stuff and not the sharp stuff. JD off a vicious pull and some activity coming in for next week, cheap. looking for a bounce. Now, not a bounce to new highs. So in other words, Monday, Tuesday, you get a tradable move out of this. You got to lock that in. If you're in a stock, in the equity, you're going to raise your stops. You know, you're in the calls, you want to leave a runner, that's fine. But you can't just say, oh, a JD caught some flow, and then you get a move and you're hoping for $50 in 2 weeks. Okay, now, what would set up JD into something more than just that type of trade? JD bounces a little bit, hangs around here, consolidates, chops around, shakes people out with try to flush it to a new low, that sort of thing. And in the midst of that consolidation, they really come after it with real sweeper activity, like legitimate sweeper activity. And you guys remember, I think that was the start of the Sweep Series webinar. We were talking about that over here. Look how tiny that looks now. Let me blow it up a little. You guys remember that? It was that and Visa. And the market looked like shit. So you had this just sideways do nothing, right? It did nothing. All this time did nothing. And in the midst of this consolidation, they kept coming back and coming back. And adding and adding. And the stock would pop, and then the next day give it back. And the stock would pop, and the next day give it back. You know? And then ultimately, it got loose. So that's what you would look for out of the JD now. You understand? So you had this move higher. It was a big move. And, you know, now this is going to end up at best into some consolidation ultimately, right? So you want it to hang around and chop around for a little bit, but you want to see that aggressive nature behind the flow where they keep coming. They don't have enough. Jan sweeper. Stock pops, next day is down, following day, another Jan sweeper, and another Jan sweeper. You know? And the more the stock does nothing, the better. Let them keep coming, and another Jan sweeper. And then you could focus on, you know, and then it falls into the category of sharper activity. Like right now, this is just a cheap trade. And again, you remember the Visa. Look at that Visa now, by the way. And there's been Visa flow and some good-looking orders since then. But you don't hear me talking about Visa like I was talking about it back then. You don't, I mean, I hardly even bring Visa up, and Visa still catches flow. You know, Visa, the same thing. You had that consolidation. Where was it here? Visa, it was like spring, yeah, this. And every single day, sweeper, 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 and then finally got loose. And then consolidated again here, sweeper, 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 and got loose. You know, now it's in the hands of the gods. Mark, what are you saying? My username in the room is ZZ888. I've tried many of the memberships and learned so much from you. Thank you, Mark. I appreciate that. How come ZZZ? I got to remember that. Yeah, speak up a little bit in the room. You know what I mean? I like when we all talk together, share ideas and strategies. But I appreciate the kind words, Mark. Thank you. What is this? Hold on, I got a good question. I lost it. Oh. Does the expiration matter in terms of weeklies versus monthlies for sharps? Yeah, Brent. Again, weeklies, you're rarely going to see me label something sharp in weeklies. Weeklies is spec action. You know, it's spec action. Very rarely, again, it may happen, but very rarely. You know, the sharp action, Now, is Wells Fargo April missiles into blood? That's sharp action. That's not your average guy, right? That's not your average player right there, is it? Like, that guy was making a bet that at this spot, Wells Fargo was worth a position for him. It wasn't, you know what? I'm going to throw some cheap money in weeklies looking for the Wells Fargo bounce. That wasn't what that order looked like. That looked like, all right, I'm going to lay down a hammer here into the teeth of the sell-off. I got some time behind this bet, and I know when I look back, this is going to be a steal at this level. May not happen next week, may not happen next month, but he gave himself to April. Doesn't mean he thought it would take that long, but he gave himself to April, and he felt strongly that this spot right here was a point for him to build a real position, start to build a real position. You know, that's sharp action. You know, we see the weekly stuff like in the banks, you know, that cheap 5-cent stuff. We see it. Yeah, that's easy. That's cheap money. And don't get me wrong, we've seen them cash on those things. We see it time and time again. But you can't treat that the same. There are going to be a good amount of losers. There's going to be losers on spec action. The name of the game with that stuff is to win more than you lose, and if you manage your money properly, you're happy with that. You know, you're happy with that. And again, you know, equity players can take advantage of that. You understand what I'm saying? If you're an equity player, you can buy Morgan Stanley for a trade. You have your stop loss and looking for that trade and not worry about your weeklies going to zero if the stock doesn't go up enough. That's what people don't realize, I think, because they think because we're looking at flow, it only applies to options. I think you have just as big as an edge on the equity side. You know, I love those trades as an equities player. You see spec action, you get involved in the stock, you know, position size and manage your risk accordingly. You just got to understand that the other action, the spec action, is exactly what it is, spec action. And there are going to be losers. There's nothing wrong with that. You're going to lose more than you would lose playing off initial sharp activity. I think a lot of traders get discouraged off losers, and that's why I'm trying to make that clear to you guys. There's nothing wrong with it, though. But yeah, the expiration matters a lot. And especially, Brent, if you're looking for a winner, a big winner, you know, you got to give yourself enough time. You got to give yourself enough time. And the other thing, too, is, you know, you don't want to get hung up on a name. You really don't. There's so many, especially with just the regular trades out there and stuff like that. There's so many names out there that you really don't want to get all junked up on a name and it's do or die. You want to treat it the same way. This is what you risk. This is what you're looking for. And that's it. It's a loser. It's a loser. It's not a big deal. It's part of the game. Like we've seen action recently in GE. Okay? And GE has looked like shit this past week. I think there was news of something in India or whatever the case. So, you know, people who play GE get all rung up and hung up on it. Listen, what'd you do? You played Novembers? Relax. You know, if you put in what you're willing to risk, what are you stressing over? It's either you're going to make money or it's a loser and you move on. You know, and just because, even if GE was a winner, it didn't mean anything. You could lose on the next one. You just don't want to get hung up. Losers are a part of the game. And when you get wrapped up into one stock or one play and show that desperation that it's do or die, that's where you can really go throw for a loop in this game. But GE had some, I mean, it's GE for Christ's sake, but it had some big action. It had some big action. Had a little move here, and now it's back to the bottom of the range. It would be a great sign if they come after GE aggressively and, maybe set up something bigger. But right now, if it's a loser, it's a loser. I like these training questions, though. But yeah, to answer your question, the expiration does matter, especially for what you're looking for. If you're looking to give something a leash and you want to catch a big move, in my opinion, you want to stick to stuff further out, and you have a legitimate shot that way. It may not take that long, but you got a legitimate shot to allow something to be a big winner. When you're playing, weeklies and trying to hit home runs on everything you touch, it's tough. So Brent, you're saying you have to swing trade, right? And again, depending on, swing trade is such a broad label. Like, I mean, I know people who claim they swing trade, but they flip it in 2 days. You're saying 2 to 6 months is roughly what you're looking for? Yeah. So then, you focus on, you're not looking for weeklies, And listen, the other thing too, Brent, if you're trading off just flow, then yeah, it matters. If you're trading off something, I'll give you an example. Let's say you see action, I don't know, in this true, right? That came in, all right? And you're saying to yourself, all right, I was looking to buy this thing. I want to put it away, an investment or whatever the case may be. But they bought front month, only a month out. You can use that activity as an indicator, right? It's giving you a heads up that there may be some upward momentum coming in this thing. So then it really doesn't matter, right? You're buying it based on what your homework, on what you're looking at, and you're using the flow as confirmation to the timing of it. So that's a little different. But if you're trading solely off flow, like I do, the swing trade stuff, you're going to find a lot more success when you have some legitimate time. You're going to find a lot more success. You're going to find yourself catching a lot bigger winners that way, And again, one way to limit the stress is to put in what you're willing to lose initially. Because what happens is, I see so many times, somebody will go into something that's 6 months out, and they're selling it 2 days later. Does that make any sense? Does that make any sense at all? You focused on a sweeper action that's 6 months out, and you just sold it 2 days later. And the noise, the stress of the daily game, that'll get to you. So again, as I started initially on this webinar, it's a matter of what type of player you are, and then focusing on the things you need to focus on to be successful. Mike's asking the Bud flow. Yeah, Bud doesn't impress me. It was tied to stock, I think what you're talking about. There were some big orders in Bud tied to stock. You see that a lot in Bud. I saw it because Bud looks half decent, but there were some big orders tied to stock this past week. SFM, that is an interesting name. I'll tell you what, this is one where it had some real good-looking action. You can mark it off as a loser this go around. And the same thing happened here. This thing gapped down. They tattooed it with December calls. Nailed the bottom. Had a nice rally. They did the same thing into this. It didn't have much of a bounce at all, and they're underwater right now. So people want to know the losers. Here's an example of a potential loser. This SFM. So, but we've been talking about these. These Amazon plays have been really tough. A lot of them started coming back, but you remember how vicious the selling was in like the Ulta. I mean, relentless. Look at this. Costco started coming back though, right? Yeah, Costco. The Amazon, off the Amazon news, the selling has been vicious. Vicious. So yeah, that SFM, the flow has been there, but I just zero reaction off it. Like I said, you had this little lift and then trampled. So you can see if they come after it again. If you have an interest in the name, I would wait to see, and you know, I would want to see them get aggressive again. Me personally, they've been tough. How about guys? You see this? The Win? What a monster! See, that's another name. You know, which a lot of you guys like to trade. That if you didn't have time on your side, you got chopped up and drained out. I mean, Win caught a ton of action. Tons. There were actually, I think it was December, 2 December sweepers that were, forget it, in this Win. Missiles. But you had to sit through some consolidation here, you know? Ignore the noise, and if you had the time, you were in good shape. Pete saying, on your charts, what do you have at the bottom? Yeah, this is sentiment stuff. It's basically sentiment. What other names? I passed through you guys. This thing doesn't go in chronological order, and I got to randomly just look here. Any activity in NetEase? No, there was, I think it was December's that we saw back before this bounce. When was it? I lose all track of time. I think we saw December's here. I don't, you know, who knows if they're still in it. I haven't seen any action. I don't remember NetEase. Nothing of note. There was a half decent. NetEase doesn't catch a lot of action. That's the problem with it. NetEase doesn't catch a lot of action. You know, a lot of the tech names, there wasn't a lot of them. They caught half decent flow, nothing crazy. Like I said, the Adobe was one of the better looking names to catch flow. Avgo, there was some tied action there as well. A lot of those blocks were tied. Thursday, Wednesday, whenever it was. But this Avgo caught some action. Any pullback here, even off the earnings pullback, they've been buying December's in Avgo. I'm trying to think of other tech names that you know what's another interesting one? Is WDC. It's got that Toshiba crap over its head. If they ever figure that out, the action went quiet, and just recently, I think it was on this day, right here, caught action. Caught a nice looking bet. WDC, if you guys remember, like the Micron, caught action throughout this whole move. Then you had the Toshiba news, and then the flow got quiet, really quiet. They used to sweep up every single dip. And then you had your first real looking sweep that we've seen in a bit right here, right on that day. I think they were April's. So you see time. A lot of the better looking bets have time behind them. A lot of them. What else? I mentioned Tesla caught some action. I'm just rattling through some names here because I probably missed a couple of you guys. I answered that one. How do you use flow for ETFs? That's a great question. Me personally, I like to use ETF flow not in itself, but with the overall flow for sentiment purposes. So in other words, if the market's selling, okay, and we see some SPY sweeper activity coming into the weakness with some call buying in individual names, that would add to the bullishness of that signal. Random ETF orders, now especially this day and age where the market is, you can't make too much out of them. You can't. Because we're randomly, no matter what, we're randomly going to see put buying in ETFs. I mean, that's normal and protective behavior that the smart money uses often in markets like this. Again, you got to understand what a lot of fund managers, institutions, what they're worried about is not pullback, not some consolidation. They worry about something bigger than that. All right. So if they own a basket of semiconductors and they feel like they're too long in a sense, but want to be too long, you're going to see a block go off of 10,000 SMH puts. We saw that Friday. And that's going to protect and alleviate some of the downside if you get some sort of exogenous event or something like that that you don't see coming. Doesn't mean they're bearish. They're actually really bullish, you know, because they're long so many semi names hypothetically. So that's what I try to stress to members. There was a time, you got to go back to probably like 2015, 2016, where the ETF sweepers meant a lot more as far as action's concerned. But now it's too noisy to really make heads or tails out of it. You really want to see a cluster of it diverge from what the market's doing. Like for me personally right now, weakness, if we were weak and we see ETF call sweeper activity come in waves, that would be a strong signal for me. That's what I would use it for. You know, so that's because back when the market was not doing much, the SPY sweepers were money, especially for like intraday trading purposes, because you used to get markets selling every other day. The market was so choppy, and then some SPY sweepers come in, and they used to signal a turn of the market. Now you got a market that goes up every day. You know what I mean? And you see SPY sweepers, like, big deal. Or you see a SPY put buyer, and, is he really bearish? You'll see VXX call buying. That's all part of protection against longs right now. You really don't want to make too much out of it. I think right now it's more of the biggest edge or flow is in the individual names. That's where the biggest edge. One, for rotation purposes, it's been huge as far as giving us a heads up in rotating sectors. And now, especially with the IWM participation, under the radar names, not even under the radar, I hate using that term, under the hood type names. Not the names everybody's talking about. Bringing your attention to those names of possible momentum there. And like I said, I wish I was more on top of it. The auto supply names, we were seeing so many different names, and action, you'll never see action in those names. And because we couldn't find the catalyst or we didn't put it together as quick and as clean as I wish we had. Some people took advantage, but that could have been a score of scores there. There were so many names there. So many names. This ALV was another one. Look at that gap they caught there. A cheaper one, this AXL. You know, so from bigger names to cheaper names, I already told you the KMX, the Monroe, so many. So now we just got to keep our eyes peeled and make sure we catch the next go around and see where they're going. Right now, there really isn't any drastic rotation going on. You know, it's more of that quick rotation. One day they're in Fang, the next day they're in Banks, but there's a concentration on some under the hood names, and that's a good sign. All right, guys, let me wrap it up. Let me give my wife a call here and make sure she's in okay shape. Driving a Typhoon. What happened here? They look like they're bumping me off on this thing anyway. But again, go to wallstreetjesus.com. You have any questions, or if you have any interest in giving us a shot, again, the Steamroom, half off. You get everything there, including private Twitter. And if you're interested in giving a shot to just a cheaper approach, the private Twitter for $59.99, you get all the flow, some sentiment, and open interest every morning there as well. All right, and the strategy section, take a peek. Like I said, like for example, if you're not familiar, most of you are, but with sweepers and what the hell they are, what they do, there's a little write up there, how to use all this information, you know, using flow for sentiment purposes, not stock selection type stuff. So all things like that you might find interesting. All right, thanks for coming out as always, guys. Have a great weekend. Good luck next week. I'll talk to you all next week anyway.